Live we are. Hey everybody, Chuck Cook, Aaron Hall, Greg Siskin, James Hollis, and the eminent Mr. Sushi's dad, Jeff Joseph.
Hi everybody.
Sushi seemed a lot calmer this week in the background.
Oh, does he?
All over the place. Today, very calm.
Good.
Whatever you do,
I think when you start talking is when he gets excited.
Is that what it is? Yeah, it makes us all crazy. Just don't put them in a pond so they grow to be 100 pounds. You don't want that to happen. I don't even think they taste good. I don't know. I've never had a goldfish that's 100 pounds. Speaking of goldfish that's 100 pounds, let's talk about some of the litigation we have going on this week. Aaron and I were just talking about the Go case. Because, of course, the judge is going to issue his decision eventually. 3 weeks today. 3 weeks.
So like a betting line?
It's like a baby pool over under when it's going to be. I don't know. I think Aaron and I were just talking. We're going to submit a quick reply brief to the government's filing, only because they submitted all this great new declarations and argued force majeure and but what's helpful is one of the affidavits they submitted was from the head of the KCC detailing how many cases they've documentarily qualified this year. And they have documentarily qualified over 40,000 DV 2021 people, according to them, individuals, which, we think, using an estimate from our friend Britt Simon, that's probably 70,000 people. So technically, they would have DQ'd, and I hate using it that way, enough people to use the numbers. But it's unclear. Okay, why haven't they set for appointment all those people? Anyway, I think it's some good evidence for us to use there that, in fact, the force majeure is their interpretation of the law. That's the force majeure here. And it wasn't force majority. It was.
Is that how it's really pronounced?
I don't know. How do you pronounce it? It's like Okaho. How do you pronounce that?
Force majeure.
How do you say it, Greg?
Force majeure, I thought.
Majeure, force majeure. It's like pro hac vice. E pluribus unum.
Inspiring confidence with our lack of Latin.
Well, it's a dead language. Nobody speaks it anymore. So
I took Latin in high school, and I'm still not very helpful here.
Well, that's my son. He took a lot of Latin classes in college. Maybe that's what it is. So that's on the Go case. Look, we don't know when it's going to happen. Soon, I hope. My idea is the judge is going to reserve a lot of numbers. So from his point of view, I'm reserving the numbers. So it doesn't matter whether they get done. Now, I think it does matter when you get done. And obviously, we're going to push for all our clients to have interviews by the end of the year, by the end of September, because, the government could appeal. I don't know if they will, but they could appeal.
Well, the other reason why, when he gives a number, whatever they do this fiscal year, those are, that's a bonus on top of the number that's reserved.
So
we want those cases adjudicated this year.
Unless he reserves every number that's not used, right? And then,
right.
Unlike the Aker Gomez case, and again, Gomez is the same way. We don't know what they're going to be doing. We just we'll figure it out, right? We'll figure it out. I'm just saving my do not disturb so I don't get disturbed again.
I really like your water bottle, Chuck.
You that a great looking one? Look at that. You like that there?
I think we could start selling those to our clients.
I think a little shirt, impact integration. Everybody who wants to buy the T-shirt. It's like all the YouTube channels, they sell merchandise, right? So to do that. So Lily is going to kill me. Lily is going to kick my butt.
Why?
Because
She didn't put the labels.
We started earlier this week, though. So
there we go.
There we go.
So we just said, go back and listen to Gomez. We don't know when the judge is going to issue the order soon. And same thing with Gomez Aker.
We'll take a poll. Everyone,
rewind
show
about
them your
4
water
minutes.
Bottle. Show them your water bottle, Chuck.
If you're watching the recording, rewind 4 minutes. That's one.
Okay, see the impact litigation water bottle? Whichever plaintiff guesses closest to the date and time the judge made to issue his decision gets this beautiful impact litigation Yeti water.
It's a Yeti. It's a Yeti.
It's awesome.
And that includes shipping to your new address in the U.S. when you come here on your DV 2021 immigrant visa. So you can put those dates, you can email all those dates to Jeff Joseph.
Oh, God. Thank you.
Maybe I should make an app.
Put them in the comments and we'll look in the don't email Jeff. We'll put them in the comments here.
You can print out in the comments.
So that's what's the date of the Go and the Aker decisions? Closest one without going over. Closest one without going over is the winner of the Yeti water bottle. This thing weighs like 2 pounds too. It's like you're gonna carry all that water around with you for a few sips. I do want to have our folks talk about Enunciado. Aaron, you want to talk about Enunciado?
Oh, sure. So I think the last update we gave was that following the dismissal of the case, there had been, or at the time of the dismissal, there were 16 remaining visa applicants. And so we've reached out to all of them and discussed whether they want to go forward with a new complaint. And we've gone back and forth with them a little bit. If you're an Enunciado plaintiff and you haven't gotten those emails, let me know. But assuming that everybody wants to do it, then we're going to put together a new complaint to file likely again in the Northern District of California.
In Judge Seaborg's court, if he'll take the case. But the other good news is we've had several more Enunciado plaintiffs get their visas.
2 today.
2 today. I think we had 1 last week. So I think we're down to 12 or 13 people is what's left, including poor Line Enunciado. It's just really ridiculous, by the way, that she's not adjudicated. And I think Aaron made a great point. If this does, in fact, land on Judge Seaborg's desk, he's going to ask, it's been a year and you haven't adjudicated these people? This actually will give us a vehicle as well to challenge this whole prioritization craziness, which is just made up of whole cloth. The Department of State has no legal right to prioritize one visa type over another. There's no right in the law to do that. That's just made up out of whole cloth to appease some people with bigger constituencies. That's all it is. I don't think appeasement is a good policy. Didn't work out in World War II, so I don't think it'll work out today. Little joke there for you history buffs in the audience. So let's have a couple other updates. Milligan.
Wait, we had we had somebody from Montreal.
Finally, one of our plaintiffs from Montreal, probably the one that has been delayed the longest, round 1, got approved today from Montreal. So that's very good news. We've also had some Rio approvals, some London approvals come through. I today reviewed a motion to dismiss plaintiffs, and there's probably 50 plaintiffs on that chart. So things are prodding along in Milligan while we wait for them.
That started at 900, just to give folks an idea of just how we've cleared out that. So obviously, if you're in that 50, it's still bad, but and there's nothing to sugarcoat that. But we have made a lot of progress.
As to why we don't have a decision 2 months later, I don't know. Keep in mind, you're going to hear this will be pretty consistent throughout today. We're waiting on stuff from the courts. It is August in Washington, D.C. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C. in August, you know why there's not much coming out of D.C. in August. I mean, it's really, even though America is not Europe that closes in August, in D.C., you don't want to be there in August. If you're going to leave at any time, you're going to leave in August. So we got that. Same is true in the Cairo cases. We have not heard any feedback from our.
Did you say Cairo?
Cairo? Cairo is in Georgia.
Yeah, it's a pronunciation. So
Cairo, Illinois. I know that one.
Cairo is also in Georgia. It's just interesting story that we won't get in today about Cairo, Georgia. But again, we haven't heard from our plaintiffs about interviews, but we know all these cases are at the consulate. So you wanted to give us an update in the comments here if you're a Cairo case. Rio, whose dog is that? Jeff? Is that your? No, that's not Jeff's dog. Because Jeff's dog is huge.
That's my dog greeting the Amazon delivery person.
Is that what it is?
I know that dog.
K1 Rio, same thing. We're just literally waiting on this, which can be the same said about K1 Manila as well. We're just waiting. I mean, it's the same update as last week. We know that a couple people have been interviewed in both those places. Folks in Rio are being interviewed. We had a really weird, by the way, Rio case, not a K1, but an EB5 that we'd sued independently on. He actually was part of our EB5 lawsuit, and he ended up withdrawing and filing a separate lawsuit in early June before it expired. And they set him for an appointment, but then set the appointment for July. And we emailed and said, dudes, this is over by then. And clients went to the interview and they said they didn't say anything about the deadline. And then on Saturday, it says refused, which is contrary to Department of State policy, which is to hold these cases in abeyance. So why were they interviewing EB5, which could not be approved, and not interviewing our K1s? I don't understand, and clearly they don't understand their prioritization. EB5s aren't even, it's a line 4. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Do we want to say anything about sort of like, just to give people an idea, procedurally, because these cases are all in kind of the same place, what to expect over the next couple of weeks and maybe month?
Well, I mean, I'd love to have Jeff chime in. The reality is we have to wait for the court to order their order in these cases. I mean, we think we're going to win every one of these motions to dismiss. And I think if that happens, that's a floodgate for us, because when that happens, then they know they're going to lose. So they might as well adjudicate all the darn cases. But the Department of State has been sued so much over the last 6 months. I mean, really a veritable flood of lawsuits that they're fighting everything now, whereas they didn't used to do that. But I suspect that once the motion to dismisses are denied, that floodgate will open. And we're just waiting at this point. Jeff, do you want to,
I think all of these victories, whether it's on a TRO or a PI or a motion to dismiss, it's just another opportunity to go back to the government and say, look, we've won this hurdle. Do you want to settle now? Can we settle now, right? So every one of these opportunities where we win is a demonstration that we're likely to prevail in the end. So that's why the government's moving on these cases. And if we survive the motion to dismiss, which I think we will, then we move on to summary judgment and finalize the case.
Yep. If they don't settle, which they should do, because they're not going to win. If they're losing a motion to dismiss, they're going to lose the motion for summary judgment. Moscow, Waleed, myself, and Emily are working on the response to the motion to dismiss. That'll be filed tomorrow. I think we're in good shape there. Moscow is unique among these cases because Moscow, the consulate essentially doesn't exist anymore, other than for diplomat cases. And they'd have nobody working there. And they refuse to identify a consulate that Russians should generally go to. That's something they do. Okay, Iraq, you go here. In Syria, you go here. In Iran, you go here. Where does Moscow go? And it's stunning to me they haven't. Really, they said in May they were going to do it and abdicate responsibility. I think they have no leg to stand on this, and I think we're going to win. So that'll be filed tomorrow. K1 London. London people keep getting interviewed. I don't know how many of our London plaintiffs in the K1 London case have been interviewed yet, but we are, I think, approaching our timeline on that, if I'm not mistaken. That's the King case, and I will have to figure out where we are on that. Let me take a look real quick on that case. I have to do one little switch here because Lily, unfortunately, cannot join us tonight. She's got a little one to pick up from school. I did that. That's weird. Let's see. Sorry, guys, for this little delay.
It's got to be soon.
Let's see. I have to just get the link here. I've got it live linked in my database. I just got to get to the right live link to get to. So the filing and the service is 6/29. Return of service 7/14. So we're still within the 2 weeks. It's in 2 months. So it's September. But I would love to know. I don't know if James noticed that any of our London plaintiffs in the London K1 case have been interviewed yet or been scheduled. I'm going to ask James to take a look at that because he is the master of the database.
Yeah, go. I'm gonna go do that real quick. Hold on.
The EB5, when James, let me know when you're ready to get back to that. EB5 Fong is held in abeyance right now. We're waiting for Congress to reauthorize the bill. I do think the Kingsley case is waiting patiently for this decision from the judge in that case, and that is actually before the court on motions. I mean, we're waiting for literally a final decision in that case. So, let's see what happens. And that's been pending also since a month next week. So 3 weeks in that case as well. Let's briefly take a look at this is actually the really fun case. Jeff filed this last week we were on live with the court. And when you file on the cases, the physical act of filing is not just a piece of paper. You have to go online and do all this crazy button pushing and adding. And so what you always do as a lawyer is you call the court clerk and say, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? So Jeff, what happened last week?
Well, first of all, Indian clients have very hard names to spell. And so if I misspelled your name entering it into Pacer, I apologize now. I can correct it later. But it did take a lot longer because most of our clients are from India and China. But then the second issue was, when we file these in DC, the clerks don't want us to put all the plaintiff's name in the caption. They are in the Pacer. They want us to enter the first 50, and then they have an all plaintiff for the rest. This clerk basically, subtly yelled at me for not putting all the plaintiffs in. We got something saying the complaint was deficient and you didn't put all the plaintiffs in. The clerk said, I'm going to go ahead and do it this time, but in the future you need to do it. So just, weird things that are happening in all different jurisdictions.
The other thing that was interesting though is that typically when you file, I don't know who's typing, I hear typing there. Typically when you file, the clerk issues a summons. And it's typically done right away.
No summons yet. I think there's a reason for that, though. In Maryland, they actually have two different district courts, and the one is Southern and one is Northern. And when you file it, it defaults to one, I think. And I think the one it defaulted to is not the one where USCIS is located. So I think the clerk first has to transfer it to that division, and then that clerk will issue the summons. Another development on that case, though, that's good news is the U.S. attorney reached out directly to me today. They haven't even entered their appearance on the case. They haven't even been formally served, but she reached out to me and said, please give me the names of your plaintiffs and their A numbers and their receipt numbers. So Greg already has your names and your receipt numbers, but we do not have your alien registration numbers. You may not have them. I don't know. Would they have them at this point?
They should be on the I-45, 797 receipt for the 485. Below your name, there should be an A number there.
So will you please update your charts with your A number, and I'm going to provide that information to the U.S. attorney tomorrow. You can read that as how you want to. I'm reading it that her intention is to start making phone calls on these cases. I'm approved. So this is good news.
This is really good news. Of course, because they could just moot everybody out and approve you. And as I said last week, we had our first October adjustment approved last week. So clearly they know this is top of mind. And Greg, given that great quote to the Wall Street Journal last week, they hope we win this case. Despite what some naysayer said online, who apparently had never read the complaint nor discussed with us our strategy. So I still feel great about this case. I think this has potential to be game changing across the board. Because if you can do it for employment, you could do it for diversity. Why can't you do it for family? So these are good things, but it's going to change the game for Indian and Chinese nationals when we win this. So exciting stuff. But what I found great, Jeff, is that she knew about the lawsuit and she filed it there, and she had been assigned.
Yeah.
The only reason that would happen that I can think of is that her client called her and said, let's work on this.
I hope so.
All right. So,
Hey,
James, what do you got for us on the London case?
Yeah, so last week was updates about transfers from the NVC to London. So we saw quite a few of those. And then today we have seen our first appointment scheduled. So an interview has been scheduled. Hopefully there are going to be more, but right now it seems to be a trickle rather than a flood. But positive news from London.
Do you recall when the scheduled interview was for? When is London putting appointments out there?
2027.
No, he's kidding.
So, funnily enough, because London has said that it was shutting down most of its non-immigrant visa interviews for the next 3 months, it's August 23rd. So that's not about.
Wow.
Yeah. So apparently they exist still.
That's awesome. Great. Waleed must have terrible internet wherever he is because he keeps falling off.
I feel like I have the free version of StreamYard, and they're kicking me off every few minutes.
All right, let's do the last case. Is the HMB?
Wait, we didn't do Kingsley.
Oh, I thought we did talk about Kingsley. We did talk about Kingsley.
We did?
Yeah, we did. We're waiting. I'm actually looking at Kingsley right here. We're literally waiting on the judge's decision on the case. The whole kit and caboodle. Because it was all cross motion to cross. So, and that's been.
Are we taking bets on that too?
I don't want to take bets on that one. We're going to wait and see because that's only been a few weeks. Whereas the Go case is, and that's not, while we think it's urgent, right? It's not hyper urgent like the Go case is. Somebody raised a really good point in email today is, what about, again, the whole prioritization scheme? Well, Kingsley doesn't directly address the prioritization scheme, but it does come at it from the back end. This whole idea of NIEs, which is just a backward version of making stuff up. The H-1B lottery case. So obviously everybody knows the judge denied the TRO last week. We have the preliminary injunctions filed. I mean, it's really literally sitting with the court. We're probably going to update it. We are going to be dismissing clients tomorrow who got in the lottery. So an email went out to all of our H-1B lottery folks. If you were picked in the lottery, it's essential that you email back. I think James is getting those emails.
Yeah, so we basically created an app that allows you to go in, put your name in, put your email address in, and say whether you were selected or not, and then it's going to update us. We've currently had 246 of the 510 plaintiffs respond. So if the other half of y'all could respond tonight, that would be wonderful.
We heard from the government that 25 of you were selected. We have got to know who you are because we're going to dismiss you from the complaint. For everybody else, what we're looking at is, are we going to stay on the preliminary injunction path, which has a very high level of proof? Or do we say, government, let's go ahead, if they'll agree, and do what they call cross motions for summary judgment, motions dismiss, exactly what we did in Kingsley, because now the plot shifts from, okay, secondary lottery's been held, it's a scam by the government, they knew we filed, they did it anyway, but the secondary fit for the lottery is that next year we cannot let this happen again. So let's just get that regulation struck down. And so we're debating that internally, whether we're going to switch to a motion for summary judgment and cancel the hearing on the 27th, because again, the standard of proof for a preliminary injunction is very, very high, whereas the summary judgment is just, standard burden of proof, 50.01%. So we'll be talking about, we'll update you, we'll send an email out to everybody from there.
And Chuck, I know there have been a couple of questions that came up from plaintiffs about why we're dismissing people and what exactly that means. Can you explain the sort of function of dismissing the folks that have been selected?
Well, the lawsuit is I am being damaged because I wasn't picked in the lottery, and I'm not going to be picked next year because I wasn't picked, and next year going to be damaged too. Well, you were picked, your damage is gone. Now, presumably you'll get approved. You file and get approved, but you have no damage. You have to have damage, and you have to have potential harm in order to sue. If you have no harm, there's no lawsuit. So that's why we're dismissing the lawsuit. And best of luck in your H-1Bs. And that will leave us with only 490 people who got screwed by the government. Statistically, we should have had 50 people selected. statistically, because they picked like 14,000 out of about 180,000. So we should have had a lot more people picked statistically.
Let me tell you where we're at. Actually, I can probably figure it out real quick.
But I think the government could technically have a third lottery, but it's unclear. They certainly are approving. Their denial rate this year is significantly lower than previous years, from our own law firm experience. And I think my colleagues will say the same thing. We're not getting RFEs. We're not getting denials. We're getting, not that we got denials in the past very much, but we got a lot of RFEs. We're not even getting RFEs. We've gotten one RFE on 50 cases. One. And honestly, it was a minor RFE. And I think everybody else here would probably say the same thing. So something's clearly going on, probably because Jeff and I sued them in the Medkudu case and made them relook at how they were doing a lot of these RFEs and denials. So we got that going for us. James, do you want to touch in here before we start answering questions? Or do you want to hold off?
Looks like we're about 50 out of the 237 who have answered so far. It's like about 50.
We got 50 selected?
Yeah.
Which is weird because the government said only 25. So if we got 50, that would be statistically correct.
Yeah.
I thought 25 seemed really, really low.
The government did say they only checked 113 people, I believe, or something like that. So
and they were unable to find a lot of them because the employers weren't releasing the H-1B lottery numbers to the registrants.
That's true.
And one of our registrants was a duplicate.
Well, yeah, but
duplicates.
4 duplicates?
Yes.
4?
They could have been bona fide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were definitely, in that case, they were definitely bona fide.
Exactly.
That's exactly the kind of place that we didn't want to have. All right, let's take a look here. Elaine Lamb, why hasn't our motion been filed as per the timeline given in the email? Can we expect a K1 decision from the judge? Well, the government, we are responding to the government, and we needed more time. That's why it wasn't filed, Elon. We're not going to file when it's not ready. So we'll file our reply tomorrow, and our response tomorrow, and the government will file a reply. So there you go. Elon answered that question. Did not be rude. I get it. Is there a limit on YouTube comments? I did not know that.
Elon, you're cool.
No worries, man. No worries. That's why I hate email, because you can't get emotion across. Would there be a third? It should be a good question. Honestly,
I still think there's a decent chance there will be.
It wouldn't be very big if it was the case. We need to just look at. In fact, what we'd love from our plaintiffs to do the analysis. Do you think there will be we got all these statisticians and econometrics people. Do you think there's going to be a third lottery? If so, we need to know ASAP. Okay. This is a great question, Jeff. And Jeff, why is this a great question?
Well, because this is another lawsuit that we have filed. It was filed along with impact litigation, and we basically filed a lawsuit saying that you can't do this. You can't set a lottery based on wages because it's not defined that way. It's defined first in, first out, and based on who registers first. So it's a direct violation of the statute. It was also put into play by Chad Wolf, who never had authority to pass the rule in the first place. So I'm pretty confident we're going to win this one as well.
My favorite part of that case is in 2019, when they put the H-1B, that lottery in place, they said, we can't, it's illegal for us to do a wage-based lottery. They actually said that in the 2019 regulations.
Because the statute doesn't allow it.
That's verbatim. And then they went ahead and did it anyway. It's laughable, honestly.
So I reviewed the preliminary injunction in that case today. We are meeting with the plaintiffs to get declarations, and then we'll be filing that. The rule doesn't come into effect until December, so we have plenty of time, and we're pretty confident that it won't happen.
Tank that baby. All right. Hello from Serbia. Kingsley, we talked about, David. David, there's no court date. It's literally the judge just has to make a decision. We've technically had our court date, and the judge He hasn't set oral argument, if that's what you mean, but judges don't have to do oral argument. They can just rule on the merits. He could set one, but he hasn't. And no, there's no way to force a federal judge to rule on a case faster. That doesn't exist in the world.
There's no premium processing.
No premium processing. Judge, more. Can you get a decision? Wouldn't that be great? Judiciary, in order to raise money, is instituting a premium processing program for cases. Go Plaintiff, I think you said Dr. 2 weeks ago. Oh, this is really interesting. I mean, keep in mind, we told all the Go plaintiffs to send your documents in the spring, in March. Send your documents. And we even told the Nunziato plaintiffs, send your documents in now. Send your documents, send your documents, send your documents.
What about our employment-based adjustments? Do they send their medicals now?
Well, that's a good question. If you don't have medicals,
get your medicals. Don't send them in yet.
Yeah, get them ready.
Yeah,
get them ready.
Because they have a 2-year validity period on them, so you're most likely going to not have to get a second one. Just don't try to send them in yet, because sometimes USCIS will lose them, and then you lose your money.
Well, actually, I think that AILA put an advisory out today telling us we should advising to send them in on there.
Well, how about we send a notice now?
I'm aware about it, but I would get it.
Talk to your private lawyer about sending it in now.
But I would get it done.
Greg, I saw tons of stuff come in today about immigration. I did not see that note. But yeah, if they said to do that. But in the declaration of the government, as we talked earlier in the Go case, they said they documentarily qualified 40,000 people, 40,000 winners, which is about 70,000 people. So, it's a good sign that they confirm their documents, but you really want that letter saying you're documentarily qualified. And then it becomes, which country gets which visas, because every country's got a max, right? Once they hit the max, you're SOL. So if you're from the Bahamas and only 3 people get visas and you just got DQ'd, but 3 people have interviews, it doesn't matter for you because it's a country limit. All right. Team Manila, Patrick's watching. Hey, Patrick, suffering through the Manila nightmare still. Here's a Go plaintiff. I don't know if you noticed, though, in this filing, most of the people documentarily qualified were documentarily qualified since we filed our lawsuit. Upwards of half were documentarily qualified at that time. Surprise, surprise, surprise. When they should be documentarily qualifying next year's winners, the 2022 winners as part of it. The emails, Measy, we know them. Emails is a nightmare. Your heart, I feel so terrible for folks that are in this situation. It just sucks. There's no other word for it. It's unjust, it's inhuman, and it's unfair. And honestly, Department of State is not making extra efforts to help people. They just don't seem to care. They just don't. Mm-hmm. I love this from Measy. Now, I didn't know this. I guess we could look at our chart and see, but look, if you get scheduled, make sure you go online and update us on our chart. We need to know if you're scheduled. And we know from the government, by the way, that the named plaintiffs that we put in our filing, only Brandon Go is not scheduled. Everybody else is scheduled except for our named plaintiff, Brandon Go. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you all noticed, but in the class action lawsuit that's pending, apparently counsel for the class action says the government didn't file an answer. Aaron, what happens when you don't file an answer and you're the federal government? Because you commented on this today.
Well, as a general matter, in a lawsuit, if you don't file an answer, the judge can enter default judgment against you, meaning the plaintiffs can get everything that they're asking for if the judge wants. When it's the federal government, that's not going to happen, particularly when it's the federal government and the ask is something so major like this. There's just not going to be default judgment. So in a case like this, if they failed to meet a deadline to answer the complaint, the judge is just going to set a new deadline.
He might set it in one day.
Which case did they miss a deadline on?
The answer to their amended complaint.
In which case, though?
In the Rosales case.
Oh, Rosales, okay.
Yeah.
So, Some of the case we're not involved in, but it was on the internet. So, hey, it would be great if Judge Mehta says, you didn't answer, the case is over. Everybody gets a green card. You get a green card. You get a green card. You get a green card. Everybody gets a green card.
That would be good.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Probably not going to happen. EB delay case. What would be the reason during this lawsuit for EB3 already filed and it is not yet current? Well, we have to ask this question. Why is your date not current? Now, Greg, why is their date not current if they could file?
It should be. I mean, I guess that it's a question of what Charlie decides to do on the next bulletin. But basically, it's a forecast. In October, when they do this dates of filing chart, it's based on how many cases they think they're going to adjudicate during the course of the year. And every indication we have from the State Department is they were too conservative, not too liberal as far as how they move numbers. So my guess is we will see these charts. We should see the charts get fairly close to the filing date chart, the final action date chart, probably soon.
Well, think about this. We know from their March data report, they still haven't given us the June data report for the quarter. End of the second quarter, they had.
They don't want us to file it in a lawsuit against them.
Well, as the end of the second quarter, they had just a little bit over 300,000 all EB cases pending. Half were at service centers and half were at local offices. They were sitting on at the time 235,000 visas. So if you weren't current, it's because they're not doing their job.
Is there any reason why? We know that they're adjudicating. They're way, way, way below the numbers that were available for this year. Can you think of any reason why Charlie wouldn't make the final action date chart the same as the filing date chart for the last month of the year?
Because Tony Blinken is telling them not to, or somebody in the White House is telling him not to.
Well, if they're not being super cynical about it, maybe they got more derivatives with applications in October through December. I don't know.
But he's already said in his YouTube that they are way below.
Way below, and keep in mind the adjustments that I said are pending are adjustments. Yeah. They're not principal. They're not I-140s. They're actual 485. So it counts every 485 in that category.
It's got enough.
So, it doesn't make it. Now, should you join the lawsuit if your date's not current? You can't, because it's a mandamus lawsuit. The lawsuit's not just about saving the numbers. It's also a mandamus. And your date's not current, so you can't file a mandamus.
Well, and you mean the not the date for filing, not the final action date. So a lot of people whose final action dates aren't current were able to file or were able to join the lawsuit based on being able to file. So that's what Chuck means.
All right. So there you go. Then you can do it. All right. So lots going on in the Penn case. Jeff, do you want to? And when you say a lot,
what happened with the Penn case is when we filed the amended complaint. We did a mail merge because you have to put the names and addresses of all the plaintiffs in the complaint. We did a mail merge, and the way that the complaint is formatted, the caption goes within a box. And because we did not expand the box far enough, some of our plaintiffs got dropped off. So we had to file an amended complaint to add those plaintiffs back in, and we got the government's agreement to allow us to do that. The government did file a supplemental brief, just basically, it wasn't legal argument. It was just basically, now that there's new plaintiffs, here's our position on the new plaintiffs. And the court granted the motion to add plaintiffs. So everybody's in the complaint as if you were originally in the complaint, and we're just waiting for.
It made no difference. Yeah, we're still waiting on the decision from the judge.
So it sounded like there was a lot of activity, but really it was just adding the plaintiffs that got dropped off.
So everybody has got the exact same position they would have been in. And you know what I realized, Jeff, that box, they were in the box.
I know, you just have to expand it down. You have to
see them if you're going to scroll through the box, but unfortunately they don't let you scroll through the box. So that is a Microsoft Word issue. We'll bring that up with Bill Gates the next time we talk to him. Texas Service Center super. Yes, this is a very interesting thing that Jeff and I have talked about, and Greg, because it is inherently unfair if your case is in Texas and compared to your next door neighbor whose case is randomly in Nebraska. These cases aren't put there by geography, not always, all right? So it is inherently unfair that one place takes 4 years and one place takes 8 months. And this is true, by the way, for a lot of different things.
I would say that's arbitrary and capricious.
Inherently so. So that's something we will explore in a lawsuit for all the Texas service. And we actually talked about this previously, Jeff. And we probably have to bring this case in Texas. This would not be a case we'd take in. And the only thing is, it's in Texas. Who are the federal judges in Texas, in the Northern District of Texas, let alone?
I think you could file that in D.C. though, and then not fight them if they want to move it to Texas.
I think it would be that's what that lawsuit is. That is a shot across the bow.
Yeah,
that's what that is.
Yeah.
Get your house in order, people. We're going to take it down ourselves.
Well, one similar issue like this, Chuck, that I've heard about, which I think will also make people who have hair pull it out, folks who were able to file adjustment of status in like 2012 who have friends whose priority dates are after them and were able to file in October through December, getting their green cards before the people whose case has been processing for like 10 years, just because they're in like a box in the National Benefit Center or like the cave in Missouri or whatever.
That's the thing. Where is your file? Well, yeah, it's not electronic. You're a physical brown folder with a number on it, and it's either have you guys ever been to the Missouri Service Center or the Missouri Caves with the National Record Center? It's really an amazing experience. They're literally limestone caves, and they're just gigantic. 500 a mile long, of 40 feet high, of just shelving with brown folders. Every immigration file ever created is there. My grandparents' file is there when they immigrated in 1929. Every file is there, and that's where it is. And they rely on a computer to say, "Oh, go get Mr. Patel's file." Oh, well, we'll just work on Mr. Chakrabarty's file because it's right here. It's incredibly frustrating. The plaintiff is going to go in the AOS Delay case for what are the chances of the outcome? Well, chances? I think they're excellent. We would not have filed the lawsuit if we didn't think we could win this lawsuit. I think we have great arguments, and not just on the mandamus. I think the mandamus I think great arguments on the mandamus case. 2 hours. That's all it takes to do a 485. 2 hours, 90 minutes. Isn't it 97 minutes, Greg? Something like that. 96 minutes.
I think it's 98 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, and that is by the way from the government. I got to look. I have it right here. It says 1.63 hours. So that's it's actually under 90 minutes, right? 1.63. That's under 90. It's a minute. It's an hour and
no, it's
20. All right.
Nah, the lawyer math over here.
Yeah, math school, law school, not math school. So I think we're great. Visa reserved to next year. How does this lawsuit help EB2? Because next year they're going to get another 250,000 visas to do, and and keep in mind they only have 300,000 adjustments. So if in 2 years they have 500,000 cases, that means another 200,000 people can file adjustment status cases.
We'll file this next year too.
Yeah, if they might not, they might want the win, and then unlike the Department of State, will actually just carry over the order. We don't need to sue. Hey, our new policy is X. A court said we could do this. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. So that's kind of good. For those Go plaintiffs, our advice is always the same. Keep sending emails. And the email, again, for the millionth time, is to the KCC and your consulate. It's to both on the same email. Please do that. Let's see. We're still on 602, by the way. I'm losing time here.
And something that is coming up in a couple of emails for the EB adjustment of status delay case. We're going to be sending you an update form, so don't worry about sending us emails with your A number yet. We're going to be sending out an update form that collects it, and we're trying to keep it secure, so we're not. So please don't send it through your email yet.
Good idea.
Okay, this is a really great question, very technical question. As per the INA 1952 Act, does the USAs have to file final action dates dictated by trouble.gov? Well, first of all, there's no such thing as final action date, initial action date, filing date.
Not in the 1952 Act.
It doesn't exist. It's literally a made-up thing by the Department of State. And the USCIS. So they can assign a number, a visa, to the filing, just like they do on the H-1Bs when they assign a number when you file. It's assigned a number. And then if you don't get it, they throw it back in the file. Same exact. This is what our colleagues on the internet doesn't know our researcher read the brief. Same exact language in the statute. You cannot interpret, this is called a rule of statutory construction. You cannot interpret the same statutory language within the same act in two different ways. That's not permissible. We've got a great case. I believe it. Hey, somebody got an expedite. Woo-hoo! See? Congrats, Jeff. Congrats. When is the PI for the EB AOS case? Well, that's the thing. The plan is to get it filed this week is in our very best effort. So we're working on that right now, waiting for our next draft of that to get into our hands. It's only Monday night. So
we're talking about it on this screen on this side of my my video. We're working on it.
The goal is to get it filed by Friday. All right. We understand. We need to get it filed because the end of the year is coming up in 7 weeks. So we want to get that in. Embassy in Amelia is interviewing DV foreigners instead of DV residents. Okay, so you should sue them because that's not part of our lawsuit. We can't control how they're doing it at individual embassies. Enhanced quarantine again. Oh my God. This is where I feel bad for the rest of the world who don't have vaccines when we are literally swimming in vaccines and people won't get them here. And so we have a massive increase in COVID because of people that refuse to follow common sense and science. Sammy thinks. Sammy says end of week. Sammy, that is not good enough to get the mug. Not good enough. Date and time, buddy. Date and time. Let's see. We've got some stuff here. We've answered a lot of these questions. Company will not. We would love to have a company. We only need one employer. It'd be nice to have an employer that we could put into the lawsuit amended complaint. So if you've got an employer, no matter how big, no matter how small, we would love to have them in the suit.
And if your employer won't participate, that doesn't mean that you as an individual can't participate. No,
we don't need everybody. We just like one. Jeff, you know what we should do? We should contact some of our colleagues. We're filed H-1Bs for employees.
Mm-hmm.
Just do that. We'll if you can get somebody great, otherwise we'll reach out and add them to the complaint. All right. Wall says he will buy a shirt and a bottle. All right. Let's see.
And thank you to the one person who has answered the questionnaire during this video. Thank you. We're one more selected. So.
All right. So Bernard, judge, is the judge stalling? Judge is not stalling. They're not stalling. Keep in mind, we mentioned this before. These cases are in D.C., where the Department of State has 600 criminal trials against insurrectionists that are literally active right now. So
with the same judges.
With the same judges. I mean, they just literally dumped on them. So let's see.
He dropped off again.
Oh, King versus Blinken. Woohoo! This month. Awesome. Congrats, love. Congrats. Are you guys done pushing the judge for us? Oh, come on, Daniel. Stop the whining.
Well, I mean, here's what I would say. We were doing individual emails to the AUSA, and I have stopped doing the individual emails because we were in the motions period. But if you are in round 2 or in round 3 and you're still not moving, let me know. I mean, I don't know how many we have left, but do you know?
Most of the Manila round 2 people we still have.
So it's just Manila.
Yeah,
we're almost at the point where it's like almost where like Manila is the overwhelming bulk of what we have left.
So,
All right. So I'll get on that with Joe tomorrow.
So yes, but if you've got an extraordinarily compelling, which you all do, I know, extraordinarily compelling factual scenario, that helps.
Yeah.
It helps Jeff communicate with them. Let's see. If the judge in Go orders this, well, this is just about math, right? The government already said that they had 6,000 cases scheduled between August and September, which is half, at least less than half of what we know they can do, right? So could they do, and we have many Go plaintiffs already scheduled. Could they do all the rest of September? Yeah, absolutely. They could do that. All right, no doubt about that. Aging out kids. Again, if you have an aging out child who's aging out in September, we would like to know that because that helps us in our PI. That would be very, very helpful. But it's not just, I mean, that's the trigger, another trigger for the filing. That helps, okay? Let's see. Can a fiance travel to Puerto Rico? That's just like an individual case. You know. By the way, Puerto Rico, the last I checked, and James, I don't know if James, this is still true, is the United States.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Okay. But please.
But there is water between Puerto Rico and the rest.
Well, they do have their own Olympic team.
They do. They do.
Because they beat us in basketball one time,
They
if I recall.
I think we had an issue with that.
Men's basketball.
Men's basketball, yeah. Nobody beats the women's basketball. Yeah.
The world champions of women's basketball.
We got men too.
Did the men win the Olympics? I knew they just blew it
We
off.
got double gold, baby.
Really? Well, they lost all those preliminary games to like Serbia or something. I don't know. It's like
No, it was France. They knocked off at
France. You lost to France. We're not going to eat French fries.
the beginning, and then we beat them for the gold.
Serbia is a very noble country. To our Serbian listeners, we respect you.
No golden slam though for that's Croatia.
So when we lose to Bhutan, we're going to be upset. You, Cal, you'll be contacted shortly. You'll be in touch shortly with you. Don't worry. Why are embassies? We had this question a lot. Why do embassies do student visas and business visas? Anybody want to take a shot at that over at K1s?
Yeah.
I'll start with that. NAFSA is an enormously powerful lobby. The school lobbies are very, very strong and powerful.
There's a lot of very important people on their boards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's always just very surprising when they've been complaining about a lack of capacity for the past 2 years, and then all of a sudden they can move heaven and earth to get all the students here to pay the exorbitant fees to go to universities in the United States, which is understandable, but at the same time, open up some capacity for everybody else.
Well, they subsidize all the American students.
Right, exactly.
All right, so we're good there. Andre says that of June 30th, they only qualified 32,000 DVs. But add the derivatives. Yeah, I mean, again, there's lots more they could be doing. And keep in mind, there's a lot of people who are documentary qualified that will be denied because of whatever at the consulate. So, and we already know people that have been, I think we had one plaintiff that was denied because of whatever. Let's see. Again, you guys, it's date and time. Date and time.
I guess that there's more.
We're getting closer, though.
Will those plaintiffs who don't have an I-140, can they? Yeah, I mean, the reality is the cases are sitting together. They're going to adjudicate them at the same time. That's why they
will probably come during work hours, so that might be a little bit of a help to those who have to guess the time.
Although Greg,
Eastern time
we'll
zone.
get stuff on Saturdays and Sundays sometimes from the federal court.
All right.
It happens. I'm not saying it's going to happen here. Let's see. Syrian Go plaintiff choose Jordan, Jordan to not allow Syrian in the country. Well, I would classify that as a major problem. And you might want to get a lawyer or yourself to find a different country where you can go, because that's going to be your problem, not the Department of State's problem. So this happened last year with Cubans who got screwed because they couldn't get to Guyana. You need to figure out something else. All right. Let's see.
I have a daughter who's in Guyana right now for work. You know all about that place.
Oh no! By the way, the fight doesn't stop. The lawsuit continues until we win. But we want that PI in place so that we can get those reservation of numbers. That's all part of the case. All right. Already 50 plaintiffs have their NVK sent for Rio. If every case gets sent to Rio, it doesn't affect the judge's decision because it's about interviews. It's not about having your case in Rio. So it does not affect the judge's case. Okay, Jane is way out there. August 28th, 3 o'clock.
What time zone, though? Come on. Eastern?
We will give them the time zone. Give them the time zone. Give them the time zone here. Here's another. It's a question we get every week. You know, I tweeted a couple hours ago that an EAD takes 12 minutes to adjudicate, which seems to me about 11 minutes too long, but it takes 12 minutes to adjudicate. And they're 8 to 9 months, at least in one of the service centers, the National Benefits Center.
That includes the time of going to the vending machine.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't we file a lawsuit on the H4s? Well, Jeff, why don't we file an H4 lawsuit?
Well, there are a number of them that have been filed around the country, and there's a couple of positive decisions, but there's also some really negative decisions that basically say, you know, H4 work authorization is inherently discretionary, and so.
But we are having a broader discussion about EADs, and you may be hearing from us very soon about potentially an EAD suit. So don't assume that we're not looking at doing something in that.
Yeah, because we can throw everybody into one and then make the government justify all these delays. It's unconscionable because you can't file more than 6 months beforehand. So the government's literally forcing people to quit, forcing people to be fired.
And they do these crazy ranges of like 2 months to 14 months, so that it's completely useless. The processing time charts.
Completely insane. All right. Somebody asked about the Meng Amendment. The Meng Amendment is about reserving all the DV visas that haven't been used. Look, we don't know if it's in the reconciliation package.
Well, we actually did learn some news about the reconciliation package.
Oh, Greg, what do we know?
We actually had initial bill language introduced today, in about a 92-page bill, and they've only said two. They produced a summary. The 92 pages is not going to talk about the specifics of immigration, because that's going to be the Judiciary Committee. That's going to, by September 15th, I think, is their deadline to get their language to the Senate. And then September 30th is the deadline that Schumer's putting on for passing a reconciliation bill. But they did say that it looks like they're focused on at least Section 1 of the U.S. Citizenship Act, which doesn't have the Meng Amendment in it. And the Meng Amendment, is if they do Title III, it might work its way in there. But as of now, we don't have any reason to believe that's going to be. It is looking good. If they do Title I, that's basically DREAM Act, TPS, but significantly, it's legalization of all essential workers. So they say there's a ban on filing if you have a non-immigrant visa for the legalization program, except if you're an essential worker. And the essential worker is defined, and it's like a 25-page list of occupations. That's huge as far as the number of occupations that are considered essential workers. So if they just do Title I, a very significant number of people are going to be benefited. Even if the Meng Amendment happened, my guess is we could probably see 75-80% of backlog folks benefiting from that essential worker language the way it's written.
Thank you, Greg, for that update. This is great news in Rio. They're scheduling quickly. Awesome. They scheduled my EB5 case quickly, too. I don't know what's going on there. And then last but not least, Kieran, thank you very much. And litigation does, in fact, work. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back live next Monday night for YouTube. Tomorrow night, we've got Greg, Wednesday, Jeff and I. Tuesday, Friday, I've got it.
Wednesday tomorrow.
All right.
Are you going to join me tomorrow?
Waleed, when are you doing an Arabic?
I do the beginning.
When is Waleed doing an Arabic? When are you going to do an Arabic one?
When I learn to speak Arabic really
Oh,
well.
come on, man. I know you're
I
speaking
can I can do it one of these days. After we get this motion to dismiss filed, I'll get on there.
All right, everybody.
He's
Have a
going to
great
get a new
night.
internet provider as well.
Yeah.